Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about implementation of zero trust architecture, and we were actually talking about priorities for this coming year, the live year that we're in. Kevin, I'm going to throw it over to you. What are the priorities for you all over there at the NSA?
So at NSA, my team being externally focused, and so I'll keep it to that set of priorities.
Of course.
For us, it's going to be largely customer focused. Our customers being critical system owners, national security systems, to include DoD customers as well. We've been working with the Defense Information Systems Agency and Cybercom over the last year to try to create guidance documents that will help the DoD specifically as a first release understand and move towards zero trust. So DoD released a zero trust reference architecture back a few months ago, which we're hoping will help folks understand and understand within the DoD how to apply zero trust principles. Following from that, our team is focused on partnerships with DISA to make sure that we understand what test beds we need to continue to develop in order to learn, to practice, to innovate, turn that into guidance, future guidance, and then evolve and learn how to do zero trust capabilities more efficiently, whatever those challenge areas might happen to be, and that might be in data tagging and data protection, it may be in identity and so forth, but those are analytics, and those are challenge areas for us already that we see needing help with. But for us, it's going to be trying to just stay connected with our customers in the community and try to produce the guidance that we feel like will help them in areas that they need help.
Right, and just sort of homogenize those lessons learned to various. How about over at the Corps? What are the priorities over there for this year?
Yeah, so again, we continuing to stick with the same constant theme. I think that we've had meeting that end user where they are. Several critical priorities that we begin to put focus on. One is the leveraging of shared services. When you talk about zero trust, you think about shared services, you think about the federal government. That's one of the things that I personally believe that from a federal DoD side of the house, we could do a lot better job of leveraging some of the things that our brethren and other organizations have done. And through zero trust, being able to ensure that it's properly secure. So leveraging that capability to help empower the end user. The next thing I would say is the digital transformation aspects of things. Because in order to really be a world-class organization, which we continue to emphasize in the Army Corps of Engineers, that digital transformation journey is very critical and key. And zero trust is an enabler. It is an enabler of mission effectiveness and efficiency. So being able to secure, protect all, with leveraging a lot of your other good cyber terms, being that of continuous monitoring and those type of things. That's also another area we're looking at. And then I think last but not least, we're putting a lot of emphasis on the data modernization, data strategy journey, because ultimately, in order to access critical information through a mobile device, whether you're sharing it with other mission partners, that's ultimately the goal. And being able to secure that data through the zero trust methodologies and principles, it allows us to be a lot more efficient when it comes to meeting mission goals and objectives. So those are some of the critical things we're beginning to look at for FY22, or that we've identified for FY22 as we begin to evolve as a world-class organization.
Data being such a big part of that, I always like to say, no bad actors coming into your environment to see how cool your network is. They're coming in there to get the data, right? So yeah, understand that priority very well. Paul, how about over at CDC? Can you outline the priorities that you've got in front of you this year?
Yeah, our number one priority is to support our mission. We are still knee deep in a response to the pandemic. We've deployed multiple national level critical systems that support the ordering, tracking of vaccines, tracking of testing, and then bringing that data from across the nation, whether it's a small public health department at the state level, all the way to our data stores. And how do we make sense of that quickly, put that in an area? So we're talking data analytics, we're talking accessibility. We're trying to get that to the people who need it quickly to make decisions at the national level, but down to the state and local level. So it is a big data challenge, and there's an opportunity to add that to what we've also received funds for is our specific public health data modernization initiatives that we have, which are allowing us to upgrade really legacy systems of data collection, supporting all the mission areas of CDC. And we're bringing those to the cloud. We're bringing that data into a data lake and into multiple areas. So it gives us an opportunity now, as we're doing this change, to apply the zero trust architectures, the things that we learn. And I think the opportunity, and this is a priority for us, is to make sure that we don't take the way that we were doing it in a data center. We're taking it into native cloud environments. We're leveraging the zero trust of segmentation and looking at users and who has access, and then making it easier for our user. Again, we need to get the data to whoever needs it, where they need it. And then I would say, one of the big things is we move into these multi-clouds that we can then monitor securely and provide access, is we are moving towards an area where we can move data back and forth between clouds, between the premise to the cloud, do that quickly, securely, leveraging the technologies that we've talked about by people and applications that are trusted in this framework that we do. So there's a lot of work on policies, a lot of work, but again, we need to embrace the future to really take hold of the modernization and innovation that we're undertaking.
A lot of key priorities there, and it's interesting because what the theme there you see is as these agencies continue to work their way out of this technical debt, they're snapping in this capability into this framework, this architecture, if you will, which is great timing. Well, we're going to swing down and start talking about the future. And I want to start with you, Joe, over at Verizon. And if you could outline, fast forward a couple of years, what are you expecting out there? What's the demand signal that you're getting from the customer base in regards to zero trust architecture?
Yeah, Luke, thank you very much for that. Yeah, 5G is an focus area for Verizon. We expect 5G as things go forward to become really a key technology that's going to really allow us to implement these zero trust. That protocol allows, especially with the explosion of IoT devices now, and that's just going to continue. More and more sensors will be put out there. Some mentioned earlier HVAC systems, and they're going to be temperature. So there's going to be just a plethora of different sensors out there. With 5G environment, we can do network slicing. We can isolate those devices. Also, it provides a lot of capabilities to the end user to be able to remote and get access to the resources. So and we want to blend 5G into, as I mentioned, zero trust, but as well as into the TIC program. Right now, the TIC program is coming out with a 5G use case that we're participating in, as well as I see the continuing of the SASE and SD-WAN, what I call network as a service. Those type of technologies are going to be really impactful into our customers. The DoD community has been really aggressive pursuing EITaaS type of solutions, and I expect that we're going to start seeing that on the public sector side as customers look to outsource, their IT as a service, and so being able to have these capabilities like again the TIC 3.0 capability, SASE, SD-WAN, network as a service, and then leveraging the 5G, we'll be able to provide a comprehensive end-to-end solution for our customers.
Great example of emerging technology that's being implemented now that enables this architecture to happen. John, how about over at Palo Alto? I would imagine that going forward, you all are always trying to stay ahead. Probably got some things in the Petri dish. What's it look like out there? What's the demand signal from Palo Alto?
Yeah, thanks, Luke. The way I look at it, at its core, zero trust done right enables a cybersecurity posture where only authorized users are allowed access to authorized applications with authorized content and data on authorized networks from authorized devices using authorized processes, and everything else is prohibited. Easy to say, very hard to do. And we recognize that organizations need help with practical implementation of zero trust. So for a vision of the future, we're developing a zero trust design service to help translate an organization's zero trust strategy into practical implementation. So we're not just someone who's going to plug a capability into your plan. We want to help you develop that plan in the first place. Four basic steps: help you identify the critical assets. Second step, complete the asset discovery and flow mapping. So after the critical assets are identified, create an inventory of the assets and map flows to them. And this step is often the most challenging and time consuming, but there are different tools available for logging and analyzing network flows based on your network and access. Third step, create a zero trust architecture, design built on the principles to include segmentation requirements, privileged access controls, endpoint controls, security analytics, and functional needs. And then finally develop the implementation plan that should work to minimize the impact to production workflows. So with the architecture design and implementation plan in hand, organizations can then be empowered with multiple options to execute the implementation. So that's what we're trying to do, is to help organizations design it and work through a practical implementation of zero trust.
I think everyone appreciates that 4-step process there and really partnering with the community. Jim, I know you're doing that as well over at Fortinet. What's it look like in a couple of years from your perspective?
So Luke, we've talked a lot about zero trust architecture and its complexity. What we've got to do, you're looking at a half a dozen or more functions that you need to perform. And that's a lot of stuff to buy or build and to maintain. So it's about ensuring zero trust between user and a service, a location. So can you get it down to 2 components? Something that you do at the enterprise end, whether it's on premise or in the cloud, where you got to probably have a Swiss Army knife in terms of zero trust, and something that you do at the endpoint, at the client end. And we've actually already got the proof of concept that we're piloting with multiple federal agencies about how to simplify it so that it's not 6 to 10 things that I have to actively manage, but something that can be down to 2. And as I look farther into the future, it's going to have to be about convergence. We've talked about software-defined networking, accelerated migration to the cloud. We're getting to a point where security and networking are going to be inseparable. So it's going to have to be incumbent on us to think about how do we enable and secure connections between users, data, and computing resources, regardless of location. And that's going to come down to, can I do that with zero trust principles? So zero trust is going to go mainstream. It's got to.
Absolutely. And some would say it already has gone mainstream. Paul, they say it takes, 7 to 9 years to get this fully implemented. Stephen will tell you, you're never fully implemented. I tend to agree with that. What does it look like for CDC in a couple of years? When you look around in 2 years, where do you think you are on the journey?
I have to agree with Steve. This is really a lifestyle choice. This is a change in how we manage and provide that critical service to the enterprise and our customers. It's not just, you get accounts over here, you have tickets over here. I mean, we're bringing together the organization of really service as needed of IT. I see that, this is going to be that standard going forward. What I really like here is the fact that we're going to do a lot of work here based on the executive order to really codify architecture and direction in cloud security, software development security, supply chain, and zero trust. All these things are coming together. So there's also a big piece in there that says we're going to change the FAR. We're going to change the way that we buy services and partner with technology partners. And then we're going to build that trust in that third-party ecosystem of partners. So all of this is coming together. That's going to make it easier, I think, in the future, so that when we have a business need where there's, hey, I need something in a hurry, I've got this new threat or challenge I need to overcome with technology, somebody comes to the table and there's a clear way I need to join and I need to act, and it's going to be like this. Right now, we're looking for that policy, that playbook, that sense of direction. Those things are all coming together now. I think in 2 to 3 years, a lot of that work is going to be done, documented, and then we're all going to say, okay, well, where do you fit? What are the gaps? And then I can talk about what's missing instead of trying to evolve. So I see this as a great way forward. And again, it's not one tool, not one solution, and it's going to take an entire team to make this work.
Great call out in the executive order regarding the acquisition piece of this as well. Super important to enable this and realize it. And presumably the TMF will be there to fuel it from a funding perspective. Stephen, you've been at this for quite some time. You were involved with sort of the origins of putting together a lot of this at the council. Where do you see the Department of Education on their journey over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so I think the immediate, of course, the SOAR and the SASE. I think looking beyond that, though, if I were to read the tea leaves, I think that we're going to see is a continued push towards this idea of shared services and, frankly, software as a service for a lot of the mission-focused areas in the department. And I think what that means is that we're going to continue to abstract away, and we're going to continue to say anything below layer 5 is absolutely untrusted. 6, we're a little shaky. We're really going to focus up on that application level in terms of how we're looking at zero trust. And I think that's where necessarily this evolves and this moves to where we have greater separation of the trust layers, and up until the point where we're saying we're actually only going to deploy trust, and we're actually only going to think about trust at layer 7. But that's going to be a fundamental shift in how we think about business, because we're going to have to lean really hard on our application development folks and helping them get up to speed on what zero trust means. And when they're developing software as a service, which is what we all love to consume, because from our side, that's the easy button. But we need to make sure that they then have the right architectures and the right approach from a software development perspective to be able to integrate with that zero trust ecosystem. And I think that's going to be the future. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see some smart players in the field say, you know what, we're going to handle it all at layer 7, and we're going to show you how we do it. We've got great telemetry. We got data about behavior and actions within that software layer, and we integrate with your data lake. We're happy to take actions from your trust engine. I think that that's going to be the future. It's going to be a real hard road to get there, because there's some transformative shifts in the software development mindset that are going to have to take place to make that happen.
No doubt about it. Devarius, you laid out some real crisp, concrete steps you're taking. What does it look like in a couple of years? Presumably you've got those steps done and you're on to the next handful of implementation capability. What are you expecting to see over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so several things. When we think about the modernization roadmap, things continue to change, right? So we're living in what we call the new now. It's not the new norm, it's the new now, because you never know, tomorrow things may completely change. However, as organizations, as companies, and the world continues to evolve, the world in which we once knew users coming into an office 12 hours a day, then trying to commute back home and do more work, those type of things are becoming less and less more common. So with that being said, how do we again meet the end user where they are? We have to really embody and embrace this concept of remote work, because remote work will be here. And with that being said, a lot of the technical dialogue and terms that we're using, zero trust, continuous monitoring to secure, the lacking of VPN or the using of it, we have to begin to think about how we can meet that remote user. And in 3 to 4 years, the way we see things, or the way we envision it, especially from an IT perspective at the Corps of Engineers, is users, we only may have 10% of our users that go into the office. So with that being said, it's less more of a LAN WAN connection, but more so of a remote connection, a Wi-Fi enabled connection. And that allows us to look at things such as 5G to be able to employ or deploy a lot of these technical things. So in 3 to 5 years, I think several things will happen. One, funding. How we pursue funding from a federal perspective will probably change. Because with that being said, in order to leverage a lot of this new technology and capabilities, it's going to force us to think about things from multiple years versus just the year of execution. Because a lot of our funding dollars, when we look at funds, we do have that 1 year time on a lot of our money. But how can we take advantage of multi-year dollars to help move modernization efforts and initiatives forward? And I think those are the things we have to begin to look at. So in 3 to 5 years, some of those high-level funding initiatives and policies may end up changing, because in order to really move things forward, you have to look at those things, because if you don't have the funds and the leadership investment, then you can't do any of these things. So I think that's something that the larger organization, larger federal government, DOD, will probably end up taking a look at. How do we source and build IT from a funding perspective?
Yeah, really modernizing the funding capability and modernizing the way you can acquire this so that you can realize all these various things that you need to implement. Kevin, you're sitting at sort of the catbird seat, if you will. looking across the community, what are you expecting out there? What's sort of your marker 2 years out?
So we'll be watching that closely. We always start, and I like to refer back to whenever we're talking about the vision of what we're trying to achieve. A General Nakasone quote from a Foreign Affairs article that he helped co-author last year, and it really gives my team sort of the focus of what we're all trying to achieve, and we try to continue to explain this to our critical network and system owners. And I'm going to read it just to make sure I don't get it wrong, but he says, for Zero Trust, the goal is simple but strategic. We aim to prevent toeholds from turning into beachheads, so that a single compromise will not threaten the military's ability to accomplish its mission, right? And ultimately, that's really what we're trying to do. And as a former red teamer myself, spending 7 years being frustrated that we just weren't putting the attention into the right places inside the network. I'm really excited, to see a change in this security model. I think it's going to take a little time to get everyone rolled out. Many people have already said on this call even that it is a journey. I believe that we continue to improve, but we never finally get there. But what we're already starting to see at big department levels, certainly within the DoD, is a better alignment between different projects and programs that are out there. Those projects that were hard in the past, and they might have been, data tagging, data protection, are starting to get the attention that they need, because we know that this is a data-centric strategy that ultimately it's about the data and the assets and the services that we need to be protecting. That those will also, get the funding that they need and the measurements that they need to progress on. So it's allowing us to pull from those legacy programs, perhaps, manage our portfolios a little bit different to manage the money a little bit better. And then from a vendor's perspective, it's real positive, just seeing as we all come to agreement on what seems to be a very common understanding of Zero Trust, what things we still need. In fact, John Davis already touched on a challenge area for us. It's one thing to say, hey, we need to identify our critical data assets and services that we're trying to protect. Then we need to monitor and do the analytics necessary to architect that Zero Trust environment. Again, very easy to say. It's exciting to hear that the vendor community is starting to look at how they can help make that easier for all of us, right? To turn that concept of Zero Trust into something that's real, to get those policies and those segmentation gateways or access control engines that we need to provide appropriate access to data. But yeah, we've got a bright shiny star that's showing us what North is right now, and it's an exciting time to be in the cybersecurity field.
The North Star is clear. The partnership is fantastic, and the general couldn't have been more on point with the toehold, right? We all know it starts with one credential, and weeks later, it's a tragedy. We could talk all day about this, but we're going to have to wrap it up. I want to first thank all of the guests here for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for this program, and thank you for your service. I'd like to thank the sponsors here for supporting us on the show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make our program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.